on, everybody? Renee here, coming to you this morning here in New York City, 10 o'clock, 3 past the hour, 3 minutes past the hour. The weather is chilly. It's 46 degrees outside, but the wind is boisterous. Boisterous? Is that how that's how you can explain the wind, I guess? I don't care. I need my coffee. But I am here testing something new out. I've always wanted to do like a morning stream, a morning show. I don't know how many of you have known me for some time now. Going on, this year is now going to be officially, well, if you go by the numbers, it's going to be officially 4 years since the YouTube channel started. But if we're to be completely honest and like precise, it's really going to be 3 years since I've really started doing stuff here on YouTube. Because my first year of streaming, I actually used to be on Twitch a lot. And I just want to make sure I'm not streaming on Twitch by accident like last time. Okay. I started streaming on Twitch quite a bit for my first year online and all that. And that's basically where I focused. But I've always wanted to do more stuff on YouTube for that time. So I just completely jump shipped and came onto YouTube and started doing YouTube more in 2021. So this year is going to be officially the 3 years and all. But yeah, I've always wanted to do kind of like experiment around with kind of like a morning show, you know, to go back to my roots of listening to like Howard Stern in the morning here in New York City. One of my favorite things I used to love doing is listening to the morning shows on the radio. Z100 had their Z-Zoo crew or whatever you call them. Hot 97 had, Ed Lover, and I forget who it was at that time. They've always changed host and everything. But I used to always enjoy morning radio, and it's something that help me get through the morning as I was getting myself ready to go to school or go to work, or if I'm commuting, I would listen to it as well. Or as I'm settling in at work, sitting at my desk, I would like listen to some stuff in the morning to get myself going. Or as I am doing my morning routine, which was usually check your emails and all that stuff like that, I would have something playing on in the background and what have you. So this is an experiment. I don't know what the days are going to be like. I don't know what the main hours are going to be like. But for now, I'm liking the 10 o'clock start time. I know it's not exactly morning, but let's face it, I'm not a morning person. And if I were to do anything remotely early in the morning or close to it, this is the earliest I could probably do it while still having some semblance of energy and awareness and some cognizance of what I'm doing and where I'm at and all that. So let's see how it goes. I'm sure a lot of you are not going to find out about this until after this airs, which is fine. You could watch the replays and all that. I will probably eventually do clip outs of segments and what have you. So there are ways to see this, not live, but of course live is my main focus. And of course, if you could watch this live, then that would be great. I may experiment doing some nighttime stuff. We'll see how that goes. And probably some streams where I play some games and all that as I go through my game backlog and pledge of 2024 and whatever that all means. Stay tuned to the channel and I'll post about that later on. All right, so obviously the main topic of this stream is going to be talking about the new Echo series that dropped on Disney Plus last night. Disney, they did their thing where they debuted a show at 9 p.m. Eastern time. It's one of those rare times where we actually got the whole season of a Marvel series in one shot on Disney Plus. After watching episode 1, I can see why they did that, and I'll get into that at the after we cover some of the headlines that we're going to be covering in. So obviously Echo is going to be main focus of conversation later on in the show. And I have yet to really sit down and watch the Jonathan Majors interview that he did with Good Morning America on Monday. And I don't know how many of you out there saw it, but I am going to live react to it here. I'm very curious as to what he said. I did not read up on anything about it. So I don't know exactly what he said. I just saw some people commenting saying they're not sure what he was trying to do in agreeing to do that kind of interview. But I guess it's kind of similar to like sitting down with Barbara Walters or Oprah, right? To do like an interview after some big thing happened. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes as I react to that. And again, if you know me, I hate the Golden Globes. I hate everything that awards show stands for. I don't like the process. It's really all just a big marketing ploy. They go about things very differently than the Academy does. And you could tell also because those who go there, it's a party atmosphere. Think of it like a more buttoned up, serious MTV Movie Awards. That's kind of like how I look at the Golden Globes. But this past Golden Globes, a lot of stuff came out of it. And obviously, a lot of the conversation was with the host, Jo Koy, who I have some thoughts on. So I have not seen his monologue, the opening monologue. So I'm going to be reacting to that live on stream. And I don't know if these are called copyrighted stuff, but we'll give it a shot. Again, I'm testing and experimenting here. I really am just going to go willy-nilly and see what happens. So that will be coming up later on this show. But to start things off here, let us go into headlines. I have a thing here. Hold on. Yeah, headlines. This should be going faster, but I'm going to go through some of the top headlines in the news of pop culture and movies and what have you. And I probably need to get a better song for that. But let's talk about some stuff that's hit the news between Monday and now. So obviously one of the biggest news stories that really hit yesterday, and it kind of came as a surprise that it was announced yesterday, but I think it wasn't a big surprise as to what was announced, and that is the Mandalorian is getting his own, or their own, if you include the little Grogu guy, their own movie, and it is going to be directed by Jon Favreau. Again, nothing that is too surprising because I feel like we were all kind of expecting that this was going to eventually happen. But I don't think we were expecting them to make an announcement, an official announcement this soon. And it sounds like they're really going to be working on it rather quickly. So the way I look at this is we had our 3 seasons of The Mandalorian. This is going to be their 4th season. It's going to be turned into a full-fledged movie, which kind of makes sense because I feel like now with everything that's happening with Star Wars, especially on the TV side of things, you know, we already had 3 seasons of Mandalorian, 2 which were very strong, and a third that is kind of questionable. Plus, we've introduced so many main characters that it makes sense for them to now maybe venture off into their own series, into their own shows. And if we want to kind of close out the whole Mando-Grogu relationship, what better way to do it than a full-fledged movie, right? And I think also Lucasfilm and Disney, they're desperate for a movie to come out, and a movie that will do and perform well. And I think they're placing their bets on this. And it doesn't sound like it's a big risk or gamble, in my opinion. I feel like this makes perfect sense. Now, will this movie come before the supposed Rey movie that they're working on? I have a feeling this will be the next movie that's going to come out. So I think this will come out before the Rey movie comes out. But let's read the article as stated through StarWars.com here. Directed by Jon Favreau and produced by Favreau, Kathleen Kennedy, and Dave Filoni, The Mandalorian and Grogu will go into production in 2024. I'm not digging that title, The Mandalorian and Grogu. It's like a buddy cop, crazy kitty type of movie title. So I'm not really digging that personally. I'm sure that might be tentative. They could easily change that later on. But There's a quote here from Favreau. I have loved telling stories set in the rich world George Lucas created. The prospect of bringing the Mandalorian and his apprentice Grogu to the big screen is extremely exciting. Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni have ushered into Star Wars two new and beloved characters, and this new story is perfect fit for the big screen. Added Kathleen Kennedy, who is still currently president of Lucasfilm, whether you like it or not. Um, it goes on to say here that The Mandalorian and Grogu will lead Lucasfilm's ongoing future development slate, including films helmed by Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy, James Mangold. Now, Sharmeen is the one who's directing, excuse me, the Rey movie, the one that's bringing Rey back. James Mangold and Dave Filoni, who is also currently developing Ahsoka Season 2 among those in the works. This is the way. This is the way. And I think it makes sense. Like I said, I think for the longest time, and I even do think, oh, look, headlines. Oh, it's scrolling again. Sorry. I believe there was an interview once with Filoni saying that they were eventually working to do this event type of movie that was going to tie in a lot of the shows that they were all producing and putting together. So obviously, The Mandalorian's what started things off. Then we got the Book of Boba Fett. And then after that, we got Andor, which is not going to play into this. We were supposed to get, what was that? That Republic series with Gina Carano, and then we all know what happened there. Skeleton Crew, I don't know what the status is on that. I know we're getting that show, but I don't think that's going to play into this whole thing as well. But Ahsoka was the last series that we got, and that's obviously going to play into this because from what we were told and what the rumors were, the Mandalorian universe, Boba Fett, and Ahsoka are all going to be combined together. Obviously, we already know that because we've seen a lot of cameos and a lot of appearances and all that. And that was all eventually going to lead into this big kind of Avengers-like event movie. And this makes sense. So I'm excited to check it out. I mean, I think we've long been waiting for whatever that next Star Wars movie is going to be. And I think this makes perfect sense. I think it makes sense for them to put their bets on this and test the waters to see if people are really chomping at the bit for a Star Wars movie, which I know there are. I know a lot of people are waiting for that big movie to come out. And this could be the one that will bring people back to theaters to watch Star Wars. But how soon will it come out? Who's to say? I don't know. I do think with them making also that announcement that they're working on season 2 of Ahsoka, that also makes kind of sense. A lot of people enjoyed that series. I thought it was okay. There were a lot of things that I didn't like about it. Some things that I thought they missed the mark on. But I think overall, the series itself was decent. I mean, if you're a fan of the Clone Wars cartoons, Rebels, and all that, this was your show. This was like the Rebels sequel that we were hoping to get if you're like a big Rebels fan. So it makes perfect sense. But if you are just a casual Star Wars person who probably didn't watch any of that stuff, then all that went way over your head. And I know a lot of people kind of tuned out after a couple of episodes. But if you've been following all the series and everything, then this movie, which I still think they need to do something about the title, The Mandalorian and Grogu, makes perfect sense. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to go out and catch it. So obviously, I'm very curious as to what all of you think about it. So if you're watching, I see there are some people watching right now. So obviously, good morning or good evening, depending on where you are. Let me know your thoughts on this Mandalorian and Grogu movie coming out. Is this the movie you've been wanting to see coming out of Star Wars? Or were you waiting for something more original? Do you think it's too soon for them to be talking about this stuff? Or do you think it's perfect timing? Would you prefer a season 4 of The Mandalorian instead of them turning this movie into their quote unquote season 4? Because I really do think this is it. And I think honestly, after this, that's it. Because based off of things we've seen from Pedro Pascal, you know, he gave some interviews after season 3 aired. And he basically says like this is a gig for him, because he doesn't even have to be on set, because he's now just pretty much lending the voice now. So who we see on screen is not necessarily him. And guess what? In all of season 3, if you've watched it, you already know he didn't even take off his helmet once, from what I remember. So Pedro is just basically phoning it in, literally, at this point. So I think he's pretty much done with this. I think Favreau might be done also, just based on rumors that we've gotten from behind the scenes stuff. Him and Kathleen Kennedy not probably being on the same page, and now with Filoni officially heading up the creative side of Star Wars for Lucasfilm, I'm sure a lot of Filoni's passion projects and things that he's very close to will get a lot more attention. So expect a lot more Rebels tie-ins, more Clone Wars tie-ins, more Ahsoka stuff. Maybe we'll get a Sabine series. Maybe we'll get, I don't know, any of this kind of stuff. So we're going to see a lot of stuff there. And if Kathleen Kennedy remains in the picture, then it's very possible that Favreau may be out. But if she happens to step down and maybe take on another role somewhere else, then I could see, Filoni wanting Favreau to stick around and all that, especially if there's going to be more involved with The Mandalorian. But at this point, I don't think so, or at least not the way we see it. One of the comments I made after season 3 completed, I said The Mandalorian now at this point could mean anybody, because you have Bo-Katan, who is like full focus as well in season 3. So she is, a Mandalorian, so she could be the Mandalorian too, right, moving forward, if they wanted to go that route. Or they could introduce another Mandalorian. It could be anyone at this point. I think the Mandalorian that we loved as Pedro Pascal, his time is running out, and I think this will be his swan song, in my opinion. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I'm curious as to what all of you think and what's going to happen there. All right, next big set of news that dropped yesterday. And this was something that was already rumored several months ago. With a lot of rumors of this floating around. And when I first heard about it, I was actually extremely excited for it. And it's officially been announced that Kaitlyn Dever is now set to star in The Last of Us Season 2 as Abby, so to speak. So I'm reading this off of Dark Horizons. Let me make this bigger so at least we can see it here. So yeah, so this rumor kind of broke, I want to say several months ago. I forget how long ago, but I was super excited about it. But I know the internet is not exactly happy. But it has long been rumored, but now it's official. Kaitlyn Dever has been cast in the pivotal role of Abby Anderson in the second season of HBO's The Last of Us. The new season will be based on a good portion of Naughty Dog's award-winning yet contentious The Last of Us Part 2 game. Dever, coming off of Hulu's dialogue-free alien invasion film No One Will Save You, will take on the role, which is effectively a co-lead for at least one, more likely 2 seasons, should a third season of the show be greenlit. In the games, Abby is an early 20-something woman with a rather muscular build. She's a skilled soldier with years of training in combat. Per HBO, she also has a black and white view of the world, is challenged as she seeks vengeance for those she loved. Laura Bailey played the role in the game, a part that's tricky to pull off on screen. 27-year-old Dever reportedly auditioned for the role of Ellie, which ultimately went to Bella Ramsey. Showrunners Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann say in a joint statement, "Our casting process for season 2 has been identical to season 1. We look for world-class actors who embody the souls of the characters in the source material. Nothing matters more than talent, and we're thrilled to have an acclaimed performer like Kaitlyn join Pedro Pascal, Bella, and the rest of our family." Filming is stated to be starting up in mid-February, ahead of a 2025 airing. So I am extremely excited for this. Why? Because of exactly what they said, that Hulu movie that she did. Now, I always thought Kaitlyn Dever was a decent actress. You know, when I first saw her in Booksmart, I thought that was very funny. I thought she was really good in that movie. Great chemistry with a lot of her co-actors there, and she had comedy chops. But that's all I knew her as someone who could do comedy, maybe kind of like teen drama and all that. But how about something more serious? When that movie came out on Hulu, what was the name of that movie? It was like eye-opening to me. No One Will Save You. No One Will Save You, in my own personal top 12 favorite movies of last year. I had this movie as an honorable mention, I believe. This didn't crack my top 12, but it was an honorable mention. And it was because of her performance. Kaitlyn Dever showed me something that I never saw before. And she can do action. She can do kind of like, suspense and thriller. She had to rely on her acting chops all through this film because, again, there was no dialogue spoken whatsoever. I believe there was like one piece of dialogue that happened at the very end of the movie. No spoilers here, but she said something out loud to a vision of what she thought was her mom. But, running away from aliens, running away from all these like supernatural things happening around her, she was really convincing to me that she could pull off this stuff. Now, granted, if you compare her to an image of Abby from the game, yeah, it's night and day currently right now. However, give her some time, and maybe she's already been doing this because, again, this was rumored for months now. So she could have easily been going to the gym or what have you, leading up until the February production start of the filming for the season 2. She could easily bulk up, no problem, if she has to, if it is required her to. But I think because of her presence and what she was able to pull off in that movie, No One Will Save You, I think her actions will speak more for herself in the way she can carry herself. So I'm extremely excited for it. And I'm looking forward to it. But like I said, the internet is another beast altogether. And I know the internet is probably going nuts about this. So let's have some fun, shall we? Let's read some comments. Let's read some internet comments because this is always like a fun thing to do. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull up my Twitter. Oh, this is always like really fun and exciting here. And I'm going to read some of the comments. So this was originally, I follow Discussing Film. I like Discussing Film. And they were the ones that I read this from. And they get a lot of chatter in everything that they post there. So let's read some of the things that they said here. As I switch over. Oops, not that one. Here I am. All right. All right, so from almost being our Ellie to now Abby, it's kind of poetic. All right, so there's a positive. Good for her. I pray she doesn't use the internet till exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. All right, there's an ad. Read it. What is what? Them adding her to the cast. Oh, okay. Oh, wow. Okay. So I take it this guy's not quite a fan for it. Prepare for man babies to declare war. Gonna be the most hated person on the planet to die hard The Last of Us fans. I want to see how she handles the golf club. I always thought that Kaitlyn should have played Ellie. However, she's a great actress who will bring a lot of intensity to the role. Okay, that's good. Hopefully people are respectful. Last of Us fans chasing her after this. God, the freaking internet savage, I'm telling you. Okay, so they aren't following the game then, since Abby is literally huge and fit, right? Google this actress right now. What type of casting is this? We are supposed to expect this woman to kill Joel? LOL. Spoiler alert. Thanks, Michaela. For those who haven't played the game before, duh. OF, according to this guy here. Um, yeah, 4. She's a great actress. I love her. This is so awesome. She should stay off social. So I think a lot of people are really expecting people to go hard on her because of this casting news. Uh, and we are, you saw some of it coming in here. Um, but surprisingly, at least in this article, it's been mostly positive, which is good. But I know there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be against this and talk about it. Who knows? Maybe, in the replay of this episode or when I clip this out, there that I'm going to hear some of it. But Hector Navarro. Okay, I'm interested to hear what Hector Navarro is going to say because Hector, I follow in the nerd space. Kaitlyn Dever has been blah, blah. She is a very good actress that can definitely bring the emotional complexity of Abby on screen, but she better get that Marvel serum because she has a long way to go to gain muscle mass. I hope she can prove women can take the physicality of a character as serious as male actors. Okay, I get it. But does she have to be one-on-one with the person in the game? That's my question here. I mean, I understand you want to be faithful and all that, but if you could embody the spirit of the character, isn't that all that matters? I mean, I would think so, right? I don't know. When it comes to fandom, this is where, I check out because the fandom can be really cruel, unfairly cruel to really good actors and actresses. Just give them a shot. Wait until you see the product, and if it doesn't turn out the way you wanted it to, I shouldn't say that. If it doesn't turn out in a way that's entertaining but yet also faithful to the source material, then you have every right to say something. But you don't know that yet. You saw what they did with season 1, and I know there are some diehard Last of Us fans who had a lot of criticisms for season 1, but I thought season 1 was brilliant television. It was some of the best TV that we got in a very long time. It was emotional, it was exciting, it was thrilling, and it portrayed the characters that I remember playing in the video game in a very proper light. It held true, in my opinion, to the overall feeling and excitement the game had going for it. So for me, it worked. And I know for a lot of people it worked. But I know you're always going to have your haters and your fans out there who are going to say something. So I'm curious, if you're watching this, what are your thoughts on the casting of Kaitlyn Dever? I'm excited. I think she's a great actress. If you are not familiar with her at all, then watch that movie on Hulu. No One Will Save You. And that may change your tune as far as her acting prowess there. Next here in the news, in the headlines, this was a piece of news that dropped yesterday. And this is more on the business side of stuff. And I think this is extremely exciting to find out because I'm just curious as to how this is all going to play out. But Tom Cruise struck a deal with Warner Brothers. This is a very similar deal that Christopher Nolan once had with Warner Brothers. Now that Nolan has jumped ship and he is with Universal now, I think. Is it Universal? Yeah, Universal, right? And with the turmoil that the DCU is involved in right now, with the changeover and the lackluster end to the old DCU regime, James Gunn now taking that over. They need something to really get the business going on the Warner Brothers side of things. And what better yet than Tom Cruise, right? And I think this is an amazing, amazing opportunity that could work or could not, or it could totally backfire. So let's read the article here on Dark Horizons. Action icon Tom Cruise is returning to the Warner Brothers Pictures fold. Cruise has reportedly signed a new deal to develop and produce theatrical films with Warner Brothers Discovery. The plan is for a mix of original productions and franchise fare starring Cruise. Cruise and his production company will have offices on the Warner Brothers Discovery lot in Burbank, with the arrangement dubbed a new strategic partnership. The deal with Cruise, who has projects at both Universal and Paramount, isn't exclusive for a traditional first look pact. The aim is he will generate globally appealing blockbusters that could spawn franchises. Here is a statement. We are thrilled to be working with Tom, an absolute legend in the film industry. Our vision from day one has been to rebuild this iconic studio from the heights of its glory days. In fact, when we first sat down with Warner Brothers Discovery chief David Zaslav to talk about joining the Warner Brothers Discovery team, he said to us, "We are on a mission to bring Warner Brothers back. We got to bring it back, baby. We have the best resources, storytelling, IP, and talent in the business, and we need to bring Tom Cruise back to Warner Brothers." Today, that becomes a reality, and we are one step closer to achieving our ambition. We couldn't be more excited to welcome Tom back to Warner Brothers and look forward to bringing more of his genius to life on screen in the years ahead. Warner Brothers gave Cruise his breakout role in the teen sex comedy Risky Business. And then, of course, he starred in Interview with the Vampire, Magnolia, Rock of Ages, Eyes Wide Shut. And his most recent effort there was Edge of Tomorrow a decade ago. All right. So obviously, Cruise has history with Warner Brothers. Let's read a little bit in between the lines here. There was an article that dropped, or a piece of news, rumor that dropped several weeks ago, that Zaslav met with the head of Paramount in a possible conversation for Warner Brothers to kind of gobble up Paramount and have Paramount join the Warner Brothers studio family. When I first saw it, and right now that's all rumors, all right? It's not something that has been solidified. We haven't heard any party come out and say, yes, we had a meeting and we talked about things, blah, blah, blah. But they were seen together having a convo, and you know how the rumors start. One person whispers this goes to this person, that goes to that person, and all of someone's running it and writing headline about it. The way I looked at that, I was like, oh, that's kind of smart. Because we already know Warner Brothers has lost a lot of money. Their streaming business had been bleeding. They have been cutting already filmed projects for tax write-offs, and they have been starting to license off a lot of their shows to other streaming platforms in order to make some money out of it. There are some now DC movies, I think, playing on Netflix. I heard that there was a deal with Tubi or something like that for DC property stuff to show there. A lot of the Max shows, like the ones that they just removed from their platform, like Westworld and all this other stuff, will be slowly going into other platforms like Netflix, possibly like, you know, Tubi and other things like that. So when I heard about the whole Paramount possible merger, that makes sense to me, because now you have this giant, massive streaming potential with all the properties from Paramount and all the stuff that they're doing on Paramount Plus to now be under the mega Warner Brothers Discovery umbrella. Max is a huge streaming platform. And can you imagine if you just all of a sudden have Max with now Paramount properties on there? Your Transformers, your Mission Impossibles, you know, your Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Viacom stuff. I mean, that is going to be huge and massive. Tom Cruise is part of the Paramount family because of Mission Impossible. Hello? Why do you think Tom Cruise would have wanted to go and talk to Warner Brothers to set up some sort of partnership there if he didn't already kind of think that there was a potential Paramount merger happening? Now, I'm just speculating, but it makes perfect sense to me. Well, he is part of that family. He knows that there are possible talks between the two studio heads and Paramount potentially being gobbled up by Warner Brothers. Why wouldn't Cruz get ahead of it and get good with Zaslav and get himself in a position where he could be ahead of something? Creative head, get a similar deal like Christopher Nolan had, and Warner Brothers have been hurting ever since Nolan left. Ever since that whole debacle with Tenet and, direct to theater versus streaming and all that, there was a huge falling out once that happened. And that made Christopher Nolan be like, you know what? I need a studio that has my back and that will do anything that I want to do. And that's why he left, and now he's with Universal. I believe it's Universal, right? I don't want to be like speaking out of term here. Hold on. Christopher Nolan. Well, all I have to do is just look at Oppenheimer, because Oppenheimer was their first film under the new partnership there. Oppenheimer film. Beep it boop boop boo. Come on. Yeah, Universal. Yeah, Universal Pictures. I thought so. So ever since that happened, Warner Brothers have been hoping for something like this again, to get like a major creative, major director to be kind of like the house person to help create stuff, maybe even potentially direct stuff. And with Tom Cruise here, I think that kind of makes sense. What can Tom Cruise produce, though? That's beyond me. I don't know. Will we see another Edge of Tomorrow? Possibly. But I don't think that's going to be the number one priority. I think the number one priority possibly is, how can we help secure this Paramount merger? And can you help us with that? Like my man, can you help with these talks happening and everything? I'm curious. We want to get this solved. We want to get this, on paper. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. So I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen there. Again, it's speculation, but it makes sense to me when you read in between the lines. So we'll see what happens. I mean, obviously, we're not going to see anything out of this for months and months later on down the line, but I'll be very curious to see how it's all going to pan out. When, the smoke has settled, the dust has settled, it's clear, and then we see what happens. It'll be very, very interesting to see what happens from there. All right, let's go back to some headlines here. This was a headline that kind of caught my eye, and I thought it was kind of sad, to be honest with you. I am a major fan of Kevin Smith. I have been ever since Clerks came out. The way he took it upon himself to produce, make this movie, he wrote it, cast his friends in it, and it became this a major independent movie phenomenon. And then he kind of used this to make a name for himself. He is now a brand on his own. I remember seeing him he used to do talks at conventions when he talked about his lives and his experiences in Hollywood and his creative processes. Of course, he loves retelling his story about making Clerks and this and that and how he maxed out all his credit cards. But it gave me someone to look up to, because he is someone like me who has a creative drive and who just does things on their own. And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, it doesn't, right? Yeah, he eventually had like studio backing, but then when that all kind of went out the way, he started doing things on his own. He was a pioneer in the podcasting platforms, in the podcasting genre, like, what do you call this? Avenue or whatever. He was one of the very first podcasts out there, and he knew how to market it. He knew how to brand it, and he knew how to make it work. And I feel like everyone since have been kind of copying whatever template that he put out there for the first time. Now, in the recent years, he's had some troubles. He has an addiction to weed, which is now out the window. He had to admit himself because he had a mental breakdown. Things have not been working well for him. I don't know how his marriage is, but I'm assuming it's not that great, because he spends all of his time now in New Jersey when he used to live in California. He bought one of his, I guess, neighborhood favorite movie theaters and made it into his own movie theater that I think he currently lives on top of. And now, based on this article, it sounds like the movie theater is struggling to stay afloat. So this is from NewJersey.com. And basically it says Kevin Smith is battling to keep his New Jersey childhood movie theater afloat. Let's see. Read the article here. Kevin Smith had grand plans for the movie theater of his childhood. The New Jersey director wanted to save the Atlantic Movie House, which was the name of the theater before. The Atlantic Highlands Theater, formerly called Atlantic Cinemas, went dark following the mandatory COVID-19 shutdown, suffering the fate of so many theaters during the pandemic. After it was revived the next summer, Smith bought the theater and renamed it the Smodcastle Cinemas. How smart, how brilliant. The Clerks director has hosted famous friends for film screenings and Q&As at the theater. It's not unusual for such events to sell out. Barbenheimer, the July confluence of mega releases Barbie and Oppenheimer, those apparent savers of cinema definitely helped draw people back to the theater too. But other movies, not so much. Theatrical exhibition is in the toilet, Smith tells New Jersey Advanced Media. Now he's pulling out all the stops to keep the theater open. On Saturday, January 6th, so this past Saturday, Smith and Smodcastle were holding the Smauctions. God, he really loves this whole Smod. He has the Smodcast and all that. This is like really his brand. A memorabilia auction of props, costumes, including items related to the director's jersey set view Askew-verse. Silent Bob's screen-worn jersey, jorts. Anyone? We're selling stuff to stay alive until May. So they're raising money just to make sure that they can stay afloat until May. That's not even that long. Okay. After the auction, Smith will host a 15th anniversary screening of his film Zack and Miri Make a Porno, starring Seth Rogen and Elizabeth Banks. The event page on Smodcastle's website carries a warning. The message is a nod to Smith's penchant for Gabby storytelling. Every Smodcastle show at which Kevin appears runs very, very long. The night usually starts 15 to 30 minutes late, then kicks off with a fundraising auction to support the theater, which includes rare one-of-a-kind props, mementos, and signed items. Post-auction, there's an intro to begin the main program, followed by a Q&A group. Discussion after the movie ends. We suggest you plan your night accordingly. Blah, 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 this and that. It talks more about the screenings they did with Chasing Amy, with Joey Laurie Adams. Here's a picture of it. Look at her. Love that smile. I always love that smile of hers. Former girlfriend of Kevin Smith also. So, and it goes on to talk more about Kevin Smith and how he grew up in Red Bank and blah, 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 this and that. So it talks about how they have a film festival that runs there. They have, regular film screenings at the theater open Wednesdays through Sundays range from $7 on Bargain Wednesday to $8 for matinees and $10 for night shows, which are cheaper than many multiplexes, which is very true. But I'm sure because of rent and everything, there has to be high bills to pay. The theater opened up in 1921. Wow, that's a long time ago. Oh, look, he had the Russo brothers on as well. That's fascinating. Look at that. And hear them auctioning stuff off. So that's cool. Yeah, this is a very elongated article that talks about the history of the theater and all that. But bottom line, and here's why I find it to be extremely sad. Kevin Smith on his own can no longer afford to keep this thing afloat. We already know that movie theaters in general are struggling, right? But a lot of these movie theaters, they are all major companies. You know, AMC, is a public company, so they have stocks and everything. You have Regal, who is another big theater chain with backing and all that. You have Cineplex. Cinemarts, right? Depending on what region you're in, you had the Alamo Draft House, which is more like an dine-in dining movie experience, so it's a little bit more premium. But still, each of these theater chains are suffering big time. The mom and pop theaters, even more so, because they have no big funding behind them. Kevin Smith owns these guys. So he's paying, I'm sure, a lot of stuff out of pocket, right? And with more and more people not wanting to go to movie theaters to watch movies and watching more movies at home, that's a huge struggle and a hurdle to jump over. Now, granted, we have like major events that happened in the summer of last year, which with Barbenheimer, which was fantastic. And it was refreshing to see people going to movie theaters like that again. It was great. But I knew it wasn't going to last. And these type of momentous occasions are going to be so few and far in between until Hollywood can figure out how to do it more frequently, more regularly. So the fact that he's selling off a lot of merch, a lot of memorabilia and all that, this is telling me that he himself can no longer keep this theater afloat, which is already a bad sign. And it just makes me wonder, like, how well is Kevin Smith right now? Like, how financially? Because Clerks 3, that was another self-funded movie of his with no studio backing. I think he did like a Kickstarter for it at least. I mean, it wasn't great, in my opinion. I thought it was a reflection of his life to that point. The whole heart attack thing that he suffered through, all those things that happened to him after that. I felt like this was like a movie reflecting on himself, reflecting on his own life. And it was sad. Like we all get to that age where we start looking back. And so we recall all the good times and everything that was great that happened. And he's definitely up to that point in his life. But with the mental breakdown he suffered from, his obsession and over reliance on weed, dude, I don't know how he's doing, and this is just another thing to put on top of it that he is now, because I'm sure he was so giddy that it's like, you know what? This is my childhood movie theater from my neighborhood from back in the day. I'm in a position where I could save it and it could be mine, and I can turn it into my own private theater. And I could like premiere my own movies here and do like festivals and all that stuff. But I guess there's only so much you can do, right? I mean, they're showing regular movie releases there, right? But again, maybe he needs to up the prices of the tickets. I don't know. He needs to figure something or hold more festivals, maybe have some tie-ins or partnerships with other people to run festivals there. But if he's selling off all of these like memorabilia and raising money just to stay afloat until May, oofa. May is going to be here in a heartbeat. And then what? Is he hoping that attendance is going to increase until then? I doubt it, dude. That's rough. So it's sad. It's sad to see, because I always want Kevin Smith to do well. Because again, he is someone that I've looked up to as far as like creative influences. And to see him struggling the way he's struggling like in the last couple of years it's tough to see. It's kind of unfortunate. So I'm curious what the rest of you think about it and all that. All right. Let's look at the headlines one last time here. I am going to refresh to see if anything new dropped here. Oh my God. Madam Web, this movie that's coming out from Sony. within their kind of Spider-Verse, whatever they're working with there. There was this international poster that came out that you could see all the lead actresses there in their kind of costumes, and it looked terrible. It looked god awful. I posted it on my Twitter yesterday. Here, let me pull it up because I don't know what they're doing here. What is this? What is this nonsense? I mean, first of all, this is like a really bad Photoshop job, right? And this is obvious. This I think this is the is this a Chinese poster promotion or Japanese? Maybe Japanese. I don't know. But this looks god awful. I mean, look at quote unquote Madam Web herself. What's going on here? And my first reaction equals what this first comment is. God, that looks like an awful CW show. Exactly. That was my first thought when I saw this. It's like if you had no idea that the DC CW stuff is done, and you saw this, you're like, oh, look, it's another DC CW show. But what's happening with this? There's no way this movie is going to be good, right? I mean, we're looking at like another like Morbius level event, right? Because this is just awful. I mean, look at Sydney Sweeney. Her mask doesn't even look like she's wearing it. This looks like it was like photoshopped on her. I mean, what? I have no words for this. I had an interesting exchange with a friend of mine the other day, because the more and more they put out these movie posters, the more and more they just look very disappointing. And, you know, Photoshop has ruined the art of movie posters, in my opinion. We don't get the art that we used to get back in the day, you know, with the Drew Struzan lovely movie posters that we used to get back then. Instead, we get crappy Photoshop jobs like this. This looks like a thumbnail I put together, to be honest with you. This is just painful. Look at this. It's just horrible. I don't know, man. This movie is not going to be good. There's no way this movie is going to be good. I don't see how that's possible. All right. Hold on. Let me read some. Let's see if any Twitter stuff has come through here. Let's see. No. Okay. It's early in the morning here. LA, they still are slowly waking up and all. But from the headlines from throughout all of yesterday, this one also stood out to me too. The fact that Warner Brothers is planning to remake The Blob, and strap in, get ready for another remake that I'm sure a lot of people are going to be pissed off about. Max canceling Our Flag Means Death. That's a Taika Waititi pirate show, I believe. I don't know how many people were disappointed to see that. There were some movements as far as release dates. There were some things that were moved around. Nothing too jarring. I think a lot of people are taking it a little bit too far with the Mickey 17, which is one of my anticipated movies for this year. It is the movie that is starring Robert Pattinson, and it is directed by Bong Joon-ho, who did Parasite. He's like one of my favorite directors. He's a Korean director. From what I read, they just took it off of the calendar because they're looking for a better date for it, because they freed that date up to kind of move Godzilla up and all. So I think people are taking it all out of proportion and all. I don't think it's much to worry about, because everyone's like, oh my God, it's being delayed indefinitely. No, it's not. They have to work on some stuff because the writers and actors strike delayed a lot of things. And we're going to be hearing a lot more of this stuff coming in, with a lot of people like moving things around because of those strikes that, it really delayed a lot of things. So don't be surprised if you hear more of that stuff. Oh yeah, this. All right. This will be the last headline, and then we'll go into the main topics. So the Sopranos is celebrating their 25th anniversary. And because younger generations can't stand watching anything anymore, they need to be fed in freaking 1-minute intervals. They decided to hit TikTok for the 25th anniversary, and they are putting every episode on TikTok, but in like shortened videos, which hurts me. So here, the network shared 25-second recaps of every single episode of this series on TikTok. The quickest binge of a long-running series you're likely going to get. Now, I guess what they're hoping is that, people will see this. I'm like, oh, this looks fascinating. Maybe I should watch it. I bet you a lot of people are not going to watch it. But this is what people have to do now to get awareness to the youngins. I say youngins out there, to be aware of classic old stuff. I don't know, man. Putting 25-second episode recaps. And if you've watched The Sopranos, how can you recap an episode of The Sopranos in 25 seconds? You're not doing those episodes any justice whatsoever. What, you're just going to be showing a lot of things with Tony and the therapist arguing, or him going to the refrigerating for his gabagool and all. That in itself is already 25 seconds. Even longer than that. I don't know. It's just, yeah, I find it extremely hilarious. But I won't be watching it on there. No, sorry, Bob, not me. All right. Let's cut to the chase now. Let's talk about this Echo series, because I'm sure a lot of people have been waiting for. I saw people jump in. If you were waiting for my review on Echo, I apologize, but it's here now. So I must have my coffee. My coffee. All right. So when Echo was introduced in the Hawkeye series, at first I was like, who the fuck is this person? Coming out of nowhere, has some beef with Hawkeye. We find out that she has beef with Ronan, who is still Hawkeye. Clint went on this murderous rampage after the blip and started, becoming a vigilante crime fighter, right? Killing up all these mob gangs, bosses, anywhere he could find them. And he went international. He went everywhere. So it comes to turn out that he killed, her father. And we also learned that she is tied in with the Kingpin, Wilson Fisk there, played by the brilliant Vincent D'Onofrio. So we got a lot of good backstory from her character within the Hawkeye series. With Kate Bishop, played by Haley Stanfield, and all that. When this series came out, it was announced that there was an Echo series in the works. And at first I was just like, why? Do we really care much about this character? Is this character going to be something to really want to get more stuff out of? Right? And I guess she is kind of fascinating and interesting, because especially with the way Hawkeye, that series ended, and the last time we saw Kingpin, well, basically she took a gun and shot Kingpin in the face. Right? But we didn't know what happened from there. And apparently this was very comic book accurate. I know nothing about this character from the comic books. But when I did some research, I saw that yes, this happened pretty much in the comic books and all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. All right. So I thought, oh, maybe Echo could be an interesting character if she is staying amongst the whole grounded version of the MCU. When you have your Daredevils, your Punishers, Kingpin, all that stuff, right? So I was very curious as to where this series was going to go. Plus, if you're going to show me more Kingpin, I'm all for it because I needed to see more outside of the Hawaiian shirt wearing version that we got in Hawkeye. You know, the Kingpin that we got in Hawkeye, we saw a glimpse of that Netflix Kingpin, but we also got a very Disney-fied Kingpin as well. And I blame the series I was tied into because Hawkeye is supposed to be a little bit more light, not so dark and, R-rated as the Netflix shows. So there's only so much of the Kingpin you can give us. Now, when this show was coming out, they made a big deal about, oh, this is our R-rated series. It's going to be one of our very first R-rated series, TVMA. So everyone had to make sure that they had their Disney Plus accounts marked to watch TVMA content. If you didn't do that, the show would not show up, and none of the Netflix shows show up. So you have to make sure you had that set up in your account because they said that this is going to be very reminiscent to how the Netflix universe was. And then the series got delayed, right? It got delayed twice, I believe. Then they made the announcement that they were going to release all the episodes in one shot. For Marvel to do something like that, when all of their shows have been a week-to-week release, everyone, including myself, was speculating, oh no, this series probably sucks. And they have no faith in it. But still, I was going to give it a shot because, again, I want to see more Kingpin. And I want to see, just like how I always am, I'm always very curious as to where is this going to fit into the MCU. Plus, I do think the actress Alaqua Cox, I hope I'm pronouncing her name right. Sorry, she plays Maya. I think she did a really good job with the character. I loved the chemistry she had when she was fighting against Florence Pugh and Kate Bishop, those characters in the Hawkeye series. And I love that conversation she had with Jeremy Renner, Hawkeye himself. When the whole revelation was like, hey, you better look towards the Kingpin, buddy, because I think he was the one that's responsible for calling your dad's death and what have you. And she's like, you're lying. Well, of course, inside she's not. But I also like the fact that she is a different type of character within the MCU where she communicates through sign language. Plus, she's also Native American. So we're getting like a lot of amazing representation from this one character, which I am always in full support of. So I was like, you know what? If you have a story to tell that's compelling, then I want to see it. And then I was told that reviews for the show, the embargo was not lifting until the afternoon of the day it was all being released. So all the signs are pointing to, oh boy, no faith. This is going to suck. Why are they doing this? But still, I'm like, you know what? F it. I'm going to check it out anyway. Let's see where we're going to go. And what if the second season that we got before this, I actually thoroughly enjoyed. So I kind of got out of the whole Marvel, bleh, by watching season 2 of What If, because I thought they did season 2 very well. And I loved how they gave new meaning to characters like Hela. And it was also very heavy with Peggy Carter. And they introduced us to that new Native American superhero. Her name escapes me at the moment. Which was, I thought was interesting. So I said, maybe they're going to tie something like that to Maya's character. And it was only 5 episodes for this season. And I don't think they're planning to do a second season after this. I think this was just like a one and done limited series. So, all right, let's go. 9 p.m. I'm on it. Then I watched episode 1. Oh. The first half of episode 1 was painful. It was a mishmash of so much shit that if you never watched Hawkeye, the series Hawkeye, you would have been lost and you would have been scratching your head and you've been like, what in the world is happening right now? Because they flashed through a lot of different things with no real explanation as to why these things are happening. Now, you could like put some things together, right? Like we got some things of her, like when she was a child and why she was kind of taken away from her home. But you also didn't know why exactly. And then you don't know why there's such big ties with Kingpin himself and why he became like a father figure to her and the whole thing with Ronin. All that stuff just all happened in like all of these quick bursts here and there. Now, the one great thing is that we did get to see Daredevil come back. So Charlie Cox was there. And this is the only appearance throughout the whole series that we got to see Charlie Cox as Daredevil. He's back in the red suit. And he was fighting with Maya. They had a great fight. But then it hit me. You know when you're a child and you want to mimic adult behavior? So you try really hard to act like an adult. You try to like mimic the mannerisms. You try to like talk like adults. I felt like this was Disney trying to mimic Netflix as far as the grittiness and the R-rated like, style of violence. I felt like it was little kid trying to mimic the adult that was Netflix. And they tried to recreate the same kind of fight scene like we've seen in the Daredevil Netflix series. And it was cool to watch, but it was also it was lacking some things. And at the end of the day, it was a major fight sequence, and then that's it. And we didn't get another one for a while. So we got like that flash of like a Netflix-like kind of tone. And then it quickly went back into the whole Disney Plus tone of Marvel that we've been getting for the last 2 years. Once we were done with the first half of episode 1, then we finally got into the meat of what we were going to get ourselves into in this season, in this series. And I should also mention in the beginning of the episode, we were introduced to a whole like new kind of ancestry that ties into this whole storyline that I'll explain and get more into later. But we find her going back to Oklahoma, where is her hometown, which is fine. But that's where we remain. And I think staying in Oklahoma hurt a little bit because I think a lot of us were hoping to see her kind of duke it out in the city. Makes sense, right? Because that's where we last saw her. That's where Kingpin is. That's where Daredevil is. That's where Hawkeye was with Kate Bishop. We know Kate Bishop is there. But we took her out of that element that we were first introduced to her, where we were first introduced to her, and we put her in this whole other element that led to, quite frankly, kind of dull and boring moments in between the action sequences. This is where it felt very Disney to me. Not all of it was bad. I have to say that. Not all of it was terrible. I did like seeing a little bit more of the family dynamic and knowing that this is where her tribe is from. I call it a tribe, but this is where her ancestry is from. The Native American family that she is a part of, this is where they live in Tamaha, Oklahoma. So it was nice to see that representation there and the respect to the indigenous folks who live there and that family that lives there. Everyone's cousins, right? So I like that. But the whole plot was basically, let's get Maya back to her hometown where she used to live because Fisk still has operations there somehow, and she wants to shut it down because she wants her own empire. Huh? Where is this coming from? So now she wants to be the kingpin? They even have it with her saying that she wants to become the queen pin. Huh? Really? Wow. What's happening here, guys? So I was like taken back by all that. I was like, whoa, woof. So we keep getting story, and all that. We until the end of episode 3, up until episode 4, mind you, 5 episodes only in this show. We finally get Kingpin to show up. We've been waiting for this the whole time to see what this interaction was going to be like, and then we finally get him, and then we get more backstory. More of why he cares for her and how he took her under his tutelage and he helped train her and this and that. Only 2 people in the world can be trusted, and it's them 2. Yada, 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 all that stuff. I'm like, okay, well, we're getting to understand a little bit more and why there's this important relationship here. But it still doesn't make any sense as to why all of a sudden she wants to have her own empire. But we learn that she has all this anger and rage in her. And in order to kind of get it out, Kingpin saw it in her and said, hey, let's use that rage in a better way. You can just work for me and be like my number 1 hitman or whatever, collector, whatever have you. And he tries to like relate it to himself. He was like, when my father died, this and that. So we're like the same. But I don't know. I mean, overall, the story was just there. I didn't really feel it was necessary to have to know all this stuff. Unless you really wanted us to really learn and care more about this character, if you have bigger and better plans for her. Which I do not see happening at the moment. I see them maybe at one point thinking that they were going to do something with this character, but now I don't know what they're going to do with this character. If anything, this kind of helped move further along the storyline of Kingpin, which I'll get to in a moment. But having her back in her hometown, coming across the people that she grew up with, having to protect her own people, because since she wasn't going back with Kingpin and she was refusing to take Kingpin's, hand and kind of like come back to New York with me and let's rule together. No, she didn't want it. So he was going to rain terror and fire to her hometown and her people, and she now had to fight to save her family. That's all good and stuff like that. But it was very unnecessary, I think, for me, for a character we may not even see again anytime soon. Plus, they did one thing that I'm so tired of them doing. they had to give her some sort of supernatural ability. And it's kind of funny because it kind of reminded me of um, this other character in the comic books that for a while I used to joke around saying that this person was one of my favorite comic book characters in the Marvel universe. Hold on. And I want to pull it up. So there is this superhero called hold on, I'm trying to pull this person up. It's not Shang-Chi. Or maybe it is Shang-Chi. Maybe I'm thinking of like the older iteration of Shang-Chi. But okay, let's hold on. I just want to see because I don't want to misspoke or misspeak here. Background. No, it's not Shang-Chi. It's this other superhero I'm thinking about. Let's see. Will this contest of champions? Plot summary. But they won't give me who the cast of characters were. Let's see. Yeah, no. It's not telling me. Oh, that sucks. I wish I could remember this person's name. Well, anyway, there's this character in the comic books. Oh, it is Collective Man. Oh, then maybe that's it. Okay, then that's what it is. All right. So the character in the comic books is called the Collective Man. He's a Chinese superhero, and they possess the mutant power to merge into one body the collective abilities of all five men meaning his brothers, or all the people of China. So basically, this one person embodies all these multiple people into this one life form. And that's who Echo is. We learn to find out that she has a strong tie with the ancestry that brought her people to this planet. And this lineage of women, powerful and important women in this ancestry, she embodies all of them. Because all of them are what they say are echoes in the lineage, right? And there were like, I believe there were like 4 of them, including her mom. So in her own body, she embodied the echoes of all of these past powerful women. And they gave her supernatural abilities that she was able to share amongst all of her other people. So there was this big moment where she is face to face with Kingpin. She has her best friend, cousin, who she calls sister, captive, and her grandmother captive. And all of a sudden, she just called in all of the ancestry, her ancestral line, into her. And she got all of these powers that she was able to share with her cousin and her grandma. So you had grandma kicking ass, you had her cousin kicking ass, and of course she was kicking ass. And her power that her mom had was the ability to be a healer. So she took it upon herself to try to heal Kingpin and calm his ass down, right? And basically made him go back in time to think about that moment where he was in his room staring at that wall. We all know that wall he was staring at. And this is brilliant too, because this lets us know for sure that the Daredevil Netflix series is canon in MCU. They are still keeping this as canon because everything that we saw from the Kingpin on the Netflix show, they brought back. The fact that it was him that beat his father to death. You know, that whole thing about him growing up, listening and seeing his dad beat his mom. So try to bring him back to that moment. And basically was just trying to tell him to forget it. Like, this is the past, let it go, and all that. I don't know if it worked, because he was on his knees screaming, "What the hell did you do to me? What happened?" You know? And then he left. He booked out of town, hopped on a plane, and left. And there she was. She saved her people, saved her family, rekindled with everybody, and we all lived happily ever after. The end. Now, like I said, it was a nice story about these indigenous native people. We definitely got to learn a little bit more about her, and I guess her relationship with the Kingpin. But this was definitely what we call in the comic books a side throwaway story. This is a one-shot. And this is what Marvel needs to stop doing. They can't continue to treat the MCU. When I say MCU, I'm including the movies and the Disney Plus shows. They cannot continue to treat this like they treat the comic books. Because in the comic books, you could afford to have a 5-issue run side story, and those who are interested will go and read it. And it costs a lot less money to put that together than putting on a full-blown Hollywood production that is a TV show or a movie. They can't keep doing that. There's no way. And for all the things that they promised that this was going to be like R-rated and gritty like Netflix, this was Netflix light. Granted, when we got the action scenes, and especially when the Kingpin was in on it, we got some very like hardcore action. But it just felt like they were trying so hard to mimic Netflix, to kind of copy what was previously done and make it their own. But it still suffered from having Disney written all over it. The Disneyfication of it all. It still kind of suffered from that. The Kingpin that we got in this, just like in Hawkeye, we had glimpses and hints of the Netflix Kingpin, which was cool to see. But there was also some things where just like, he could have gone so much harder in on this moment. And his eye, for someone that got shot in the face, his eye looks fine. Now, you're going to tell me that he was able to get reconstruction surgery or something like that for his eye? They even tried to have like this kind of like very techie like eye patch that he's covering his eye with, like that made this sound, and almost like when you take Darth Vader's helmet off, it kind of made like that psh kind of sound as he takes his thing off. And yeah, he has like veins and scars and all that, but his eyeball is there. It's not like Nick Fury. It's like it's all effed up. Looks fine. So what is that about? We're just going to ignore that? And he created this technology too, where she was able to wear like this contact, and he was able to wear an earpiece. It was like instant sign language. So whenever he spoke, she was able to see the sign language formulate around him. And whenever she spoke, it just translated. Or whenever she signed, it visually translated into his earpiece, which was kind of cool. I thought that was kind of dope. But at the end of the day, the series was just okay. It was just fine. If I was to rate this, if I was to give this like a Letterboxd rating out of 5 stars, I would give it 3. I just don't see the point, to be honest with you. I don't know if we'll ever see this character again. It felt like it was a one and done thing. Now, as far as Kingpin's concerned, of course, and I hate that we're so trained for this now. I feel like we watch these movies, we watch these shows, and we're trained now to wait for how is this going to set up something else instead of just enjoying this self-contained storyline, which again, for itself was fine, but it was also kind of unnecessary. But of course, they gave us a post-credit scene at the end of the last episode. And like I said, after all was said and done, Kingpin is like running away in his plane, flying back to New York. And he's watching the news. And they're talking about the mayoral race happening in New York. And how there's no candidate everyone likes. And what we need is like someone a little bit out of it, out of like the big picture. Someone who's a brawler, someone who could take it to the streets. And you see his eyes light up. And I was like, okay, wait a minute. That's kind of cool. Because if you're familiar with the Kingpin in the comic books, there was a moment where he was actually mayor of New York. Or he was running for mayor. No, I think he was actually mayor. And of course, that caused a whole slew of problems for your grounded crew there. And I'm like, that's what's going to be happening. That's the setup for Daredevil Born Again. That's the name of the show, right? Born Again or Rises or whatever. But that's your setup. And if that's the setup that they're going with, awesome. I'm all for it. It was nice to see Charlie Cox again in the red Daredevil outfit. I mean, he was just there just to kind of beat Maya up. We didn't see a whole lot of him, and that's all we got. So it was a nice reminder of what we got or what we have coming as far as Daredevil was concerned. But yeah, that is our setup for Kingpin in the future iteration of the Daredevil series that we're going to get on Disney+. My only concern now is, are we going to get the Netflix Daredevil, or are we going to get Netflix Lite like we did in this show? Because this was very Netflix Lite. This had a lot of Disney Plus Disneyfications around it. And it wasn't the promised gritty series that we were going to get. We just got glimpses of it in the action scenes. That's it. It was a lot of story. You know. And this is a no fault to anyone involved in, you know, acting wise and all that, because like I said, Alakwa, if that's how you pronounce your name, I'm so sorry if it's wrong. She was really good. I thought she did a really great job. Vincent D'Onofrio, I thought, was good. The supporting cast around her, the one, Bonnie, Devery Jacobs, was really good. Everyone in it was good. Except for this one moment where she was first held hostage in the skating rink. Those bad guys, oh, what was going on there? Because they were the worst. I felt like they were the type of bad guys that you would have seen in the original Incredible Hulk TV series with what's that? You know, the sad one. David Banner. They were so cheesy and corny. You know, it was just very bad acting too. Those like, it was like two females and the one guy who was like working with her, like her relative that owned the skating rink and all that. Henry was the character's name, the owner. But that was just painful to watch. That was just awful. I'm like, what's going on right now? I didn't even know what I was watching. And then all of a sudden she's like MacGyver. She can like build things out of nothing. And she made herself like a little gun. Huh? Like, again, these are just things that I wish we had more preparation of. You know, like, I get it. She had a lot of anger in her. She had like all this like bent up frustration and all this stuff like that. She went under the tutelage of Kingpin, who helped train her. We already knew she was taking karate lessons because that was like one of the things that we saw when she did when she was a kid. You know, we knew that she wanted to be like her dad. So she had this like drive in her. But we didn't see anything else. We just got snippets, kind of like a montage. If we were going to do like an 80s montage here, that's what we got in episode 1. We got like an 80s montage light of her life with the Kingpin. It really didn't tell us a lot of anything. But apparently she's a badass and she could like MacGyver stuff out of nowhere. I guess she's really that brilliant. If she's that brilliant, then how come she kept getting caught? And how come she couldn't foresee that Kingpin was going to come back and try to destroy her town and her family? Come on. So yeah. So at the end of the day, like I said, 3 out of 5 stars for me. It wasn't terrible. It wasn't Secret Invasion terrible. I'll tell you that. It wasn't as bad as that. But it is a story that in the comic books we call one-shots that is easily throwawayable. And I think if you don't watch it, I don't think you're going to miss anything. If you do watch it, you're going to get a story that you may or may not like. But it's not, I don't think it's worth the time to invest for anything that we were introduced to here. Because I don't know if we'll ever see this character again. And if you just wanted to know about the Kingpin stuff, I'm sure eventually in time you'll see YouTube recaps about it. It'll be like 5 minutes and you'll get to see that Kingpin did this, did that, and now he's flying back to New York and now he's thinking of running for mayor. And that's it. So yeah. Was I disappointed? No. Because I didn't have that much high expectations going into it, to be honest with you. I have been very, very keeping myself in check with a lot of the Marvel stuff recently. And because of that, it allowed me to enjoy the Marvels for what it was. It wasn't a great movie, but still, it was entertaining enough for me. It wasn't as bad as everyone was saying it was. But Secret Invasion was god-awful. I don't know what they're going to do with everything that was done through there. But What If Season 2 was great because, again, all those things don't necessarily have to tie into anything. But they were able to give new meaning to these characters that I personally thought they should have spent more time with. And that is your Hela, your Peggy Carters, right? And I like that we were introduced to another Native American superhero. So for representation's sake, especially in this character of Maya, who is Native American, female, and speaks through sign language. I thought it was great. I thought it's nice to see that on TV because people need to be able to look up to people like that. So for that in itself, I can't ding it on. I can't speak too badly about it. But at the end of the day, it was another Marvel series that was unfortunately unnecessary. And I don't know if it means to tie into anything else moving forward. So there you have it. I am so curious, though, as to what all of you think about it. I know a lot of you probably have not had a chance to watch all of it yet because each episode was like 50 minutes long. And I like that they were consistent, too. All those episodes. I'm curious when all of you finally get to sit down and watch it, what you all think about it, and what were you expecting with it too? You know, was this a character that you even cared about? Were you like me? Were you like, why are they doing a show about her? Yeah, let me know all your thoughts when you watch this in a replay, or a couple of you are watching live, so I don't know if you are interested in this portion of the show, but yeah. Those are my thoughts on Echo. Echo. All right. All that out of the way. For the remainder of this show, there are 2 things that I am very curious about. that I haven't had a chance to see yet. One, obviously, is the Jonathan Majors interview that he gave on Monday. It was advertised to be on Good Morning America. And then later on, I saw that there was a longer version. I think on ABC, I think it was. Maybe he did another interview or something. I don't know. But let me pull it up because I haven't watched it yet. And I definitely want to check it out. Because if you've been following the whole Jonathan Majors situation, I mean, he has had one hell of an end of 2023. And based on what I heard from this interview, a very interesting start to 2024. But to recap what happened with Jonathan Majors, apparently, you know, we all know now. It started when he was accused of assaulting an ex-girlfriend. And then it became like multiple situations that might have happened. It was pending trial, but then the minute we knew it was going to trial after he was arrested, his agency dropped him, his PR company dropped him, and his future in the MCU was in limbo. But we were already got him in Loki season 1. Then when last year started, we got him in Aquaman and the Wasp in Quantumania. He was the main baddie there. So we got Jonathan Majors there. And then we got Loki season 2, and he was also there as well. He went to trial, and then he was found guilty of the assault charges. Within an hour of that announcement of his verdict, Marvel announced that Jonathan Majors is no longer part of the Disney family. And he was dropped from Marvel and Disney, and he is no longer being king. This was also around the same time that Loki season 2 was closing out. And within the Loki season 2, the character of Kang is being hunted down in all the variations, and they're trying to contain them. So if they need a way to kind of like phase him out for now, I'm sure there's an easy way to do it based off of that. But Jonathan Majors was a huge up-and-comer in Hollywood. Not only was he tied to a major, major property in the Marvel universe with Disney, but he was also part of the Creed family with the Creed movies. And he had a lot of other great roles, and he was part of this other movie that hasn't even been released yet and probably will not see the light of day anytime soon. Magazine Dreams, which I heard nothing but good stuff as far as his performance is concerned. So a lot of people are just saying his days and time in Hollywood is over. So what does he do? Or what is one of the first things he does? He decides to go on TV and give an interview and talk about it. So let's check out to see what he had to say. He was on his because this is I'm sure it's going to be a very, very interesting interview. So let's check it out. I haven't seen this yet. I've been dying to check it out. Let's go.
He was on his way to becoming one of Hollywood's brightest stars, with acclaim for his dramatic performances and a promising future as a Marvel villain. But now actor Jonathan Majors is facing the possibility of up to a year in jail after a conviction on misdemeanor reckless assault and harassment.
I know his hearing is coming up in February, as far as if he's going to be serving time and all that. I don't think he's going to be serving any time. I think he'll be on probation. Probably will have to do some community work, probably go see a therapist, all that stuff. I don't think he's going to jail at all.
In connection with an altercation involving his then girlfriend. He sat down exclusively with me for his first interview since his arrest, discussing the relationship at the center of the trial, the role that he says race played, and why he didn't take the stand.
So if you don't know, excuse me, one of the pieces of evidence was that there was like a security camera footage of him like running away from her. So the whole thing, and people were speculating that he was probably not going to be found guilty because it looks like she was the one that was going crazy after him. But then there was a lot of leaks about text messages that he sent to her that didn't look good. It looked like, he was trying to cover things up, and he's like, I don't want you talking to anybody. It was just a lot of stuff that just looked very bad on him. And given what time of week it was or what time of month it was, you could have easily have said like, oh, he's definitely guilty or he's definitely innocent. It just kept going back and forth. So when the verdict was announced, it was somewhat surprising, but at the same time, not surprising for a lot of people. Me personally, I think I knew it wasn't going to end well, because we've seen it with the Ezra Miller thing. There's video of him doing crazy stuff out there. But yet you never once heard that he was being dropped by his representation, by his studio. He was never fired from DC and Warner Brothers. His agent never let go of him. Didn't see any of that stuff. But the minute this dude was arrested, all that stuff happened. So when I heard all that, I was like, this is not good. That means they know something. That means they know that there's a problem here. And look what happened. So let's watch.
Why did you decide you wanted to talk now?
I felt like it was time. A lot has happened in my personal life, in my career, in the culture, and conversely, the impact of this. It's about responsibility and coming forward and being brave and giving my part of the story.
In an ABC.
Why do I feel like he's putting on a voice? I'm trying to think back. Yeah, no, he doesn't talk like that, really. Like when I think back of like when he hosted SNL and on other interviews, I don't know. I hope I'm wrong, but I feel like he's putting on a voice, like a professional, like thespian kind of like voice. I don't know.
News exclusive. Actor Jonathan Majors sat down with me in his first interview since a jury handed down a guilty verdict for reckless harassment, a misdemeanor, and a violation of harassment in the second degree.
You know, I haven't seen my daughter in a.
Oh, I didn't know he had a daughter. Damn, that sucks. I honestly had no idea.
Long time, you know, and a lot of it has to do with this situation. It all has to do with this situation. And
oh, he's crying. It just started and he's already crying. Ooh. Look, I know it's sad. I just don't know why he thought that this was a good idea to give an interview like this now, so soon.
she needs to see this, and the hard things need to be done. But it's been hard.
She needs to see this, so she's hoping that she's going to watch this, and this is going to be like his way of communicating with her. Oh, that's interesting.
You know, everything's kind of gone away.
The 34-year-old actor was a rising star.
This is our family story.
Known for his roles in HBO's Lovecraft.
I love this show. And it sucks because I don't think we're ever going to get a second season of it, but this show was so good. The performances all throughout were fantastic. Oh man, that's unfortunate.
Country. Creed 3.
I'm coming.
Well, you could say goodbye to this character. We're not going to be seeing this guy anymore.
For everything.
And Marvel productions like last year's Ant-Man and
we
the
already know
Wasp,
about this.
Quantumania.
You're an interesting man. Scott Lang.
And it was on that movie set back in 2021 where he met 30-year-old British dancer Grace Jabari. The pair dated until March of 2023 when Majors called 911 the day after a fight that was caught on surveillance video.
What happened exactly? Do you know?
Oh, I've
No,
never
I don't
heard this
know.
before.
But she's unconscious. She's my ex-partner. We broke up. I came back. She sent me text messages insinuating as much. I stayed in a hotel last night. I came home this morning.
Police found Jabari on the closet floor of
Oh.
their apartment. Majors was
What? What? I've never seen any of this stuff before. Are you serious?
arrested by New York City police, accused by Jabari of assault, strangulation, and harassment, convicted last month, but acquitted of 1 count of assault and 1 count of aggravated harassment, meaning the jury didn't believe he assaulted her intentionally.
Damn.
Your reaction to that verdict?
Shock. I was absolutely shocked and afraid. I'm standing there, and the verdict comes down. I say, how is that possible?
Is he saying that because, I don't know, it's hard to say. Is he just saying that because obviously he wants people to still think he's innocent? But I mean, and again, this is like a news segment. So of course they're going to put a lot of emphasis and focus on the bad stuff. I've never seen that video before of like her showing off like her bruises and her cut. Why was she on the floor unconscious? That was bizarre. The finger being all mangled like, that's kind of weird.
Based off the evidence, based off the prosecution's evidence, let alone our evidence. How is that possible?
After the verdict, in a statement, Jabari's attorney wrote in part, "Justice was finally served today, proving that the truth can prevail even in the face of power. Grace did not choose to be in this situation. Grace has been publicly attacked as a result of her courage to testify to the truth, but her unwavering resolve to see this case through to the end was born out of her desire to give other survivors similar courage when justice requires." The prosecution has described your relationship with Grace Jabari as tumultuous and abusive. How would you describe that 2-year relationship?
I loved Grace. Our relationship was, it was not healthy, you know, and that began to reveal itself over time, but there was no abuse.
So what was that? So what was the bruise? What was the thing in the ear? What was the finger? Is that self-inflicted? Is he trying to say that? Because that's kind of weird if that's the case. I don't know. I mean, we also have to understand too, he's an actor, right? So of course there's to be an understanding that he could be acting as he's doing this interview. I always try not to think of that, but you can't help but think that way, right? But I want to see what evidence they were showing to prove that he was innocent in all of this. Because right now, all they're doing is showing all of her stuff that's damning for him. So I don't know.
Court, Jabari claims she sustained head injuries, but never said how she received them. Entered into evidence these partially redacted text messages from...
Hold on, let's read this. It's just fake, and I fear you have no perspective of what could happen if you go to the hospital. They will ask you questions, and as I don't think you actually protect us, it could lead to an investigation, even if you do lie and they suspect something. I guess that's Jonathan talking there. And then this is her reply. I will tell the doctor I bumped my head if I go. I'm going to give it 1 more day, but I can't sleep and I need some stronger painkillers. That's all. Why would I want to tell them what really happened when it's clear I want to be with you? And then he says, I feel like you want to be together as in to not embarrass yourself for everything you've said to your friends and family. Last night I considered killing myself versus coming home. Oh boy.
September of 2022. Majors writes, "It's just fate.
Oh.
And I fear you have no perspective of what could happen if you go
I
to
just
the
read
hospital.
that. Sorry.
They will ask you questions. And as I don't think you actually protect us, it could lead to an investigation, even if you do lie and they suspect something." Jabari responds in part, "I will tell the doctor I bumped my head if I
Yeah,
go.
okay.
I'm going to give it one
We
more
read that
day,
already.
but I can't sleep and I need some stronger painkillers. That's all. Why would I want to tell them what really happened when it's clear I want to be with you?"
This is literally a nightmare. I don't know what happened.
Literally. This is literally. I don't know, man. I feel like he's putting it on, man.
I don't know what injuries you're talking about.
The July incident, 2022, where she says you started throwing things, including a candle. Tell us what happened there.
You know, we were in an argument. I was on the other side of the room, away from her, as I think she testified. And by my bedside table, I did a sweep. And I knocked over my candles. I completely lost my temper in that moment and threw it all on the ground. What she also said is that afterwards I wept and cried in the corner and said I was sorry and this and this and this and this. And I was, and I am.
I wonder if this is just a case where he has very bad anger management issues, which is quite possible. I heard, who was it that was, oh yeah, I saw an interview with the actress who played this character in Quantumania. I forget which actress it was. It was one of the newest characters that they came into in that whole micro universe. She hung out with like the blob guy, I have holes, that guy. But she gave an interview because she also ended up in Andor. Was it Andor? Yeah. A very good role in Andor that she was in. Wait, was it Andor? What am I thinking here? No, I'm sorry. She was in The Mandalorian. She played like one of the Imperial security officers in the Mandalorian. The lady with the short hair and all that. So she was giving an interview, and the person was asking her what did she think of Jonathan Majors and how was it working with him. And basically she said that he's very intense. When she got on set and he's there, he's basically like, don't talk to me, because he was kind of like in the moment, getting, he's in the character. So he's very serious. And that's what she said. So I wonder if it's just a case where he doesn't really know how to keep his emotions in check, and it's so easy for him to be hot and cold. Then that there's something in there. There's something deep rooted in there. And maybe that's the cause of all this. I don't know.
The prosecution said you allegedly wrote, "I'm a monster, a horrible man, not capable of love. I'm killing myself soon. I've already put things in motion." Were you suicidal?
I've been diagnosed with severe depression,
Boom. There you go.
And I'm taking the steps needed to alleviate, some of those symptoms, ideations of removing myself from situations permanently is a thought that I've had, since I was a kid.
It all came to a head in
See? There you go. I think that it's becoming clear more and more that there's some deep-rooted mental issues there that I think, unfortunately, just are coming out all in the wrong ways, and at a very inopportune time for him.
March of last year, when Jabari and
this was the
Majors
footage
got into a fight, much of it captured on
that
surveillance
I saw
video and used as
before.
evidence in the trial. Jabari testified that it all began when Majors received a text from another woman. He says it read, "Oh, how I wish to be kissing you."
So let's go back to March 25th for a moment. You and then girlfriend Grace Jabari are in the backseat of a chauffeured car. She sees
a text from another woman. Things seem to spiral from there.
Yeah.
What happened next?
Yeah, the text from another woman. Again, I said at the beginning, you know, I did that. I did that. I cop to it. I show her, right? It's in my hand. She grabs it. We scuffle for the phone. I pull the phone back. I receive my injuries. I open the door. I step out. She comes. Then one of the biggest mistakes of my life. I pick her up. I put her back in the car. I'm trying to get rid of her. I'm trying to get away from her. As the video shows, you know, everything calms. We get out. We walk across the street. I escort her across the street. The moment we get across the street, she grabs me. She goes for the phone.
He's trying to run away from her.
I get free of her, and I run.
For blocks?
Yeah, for blocks.
Surveillance video also shows Jabari talking to 3 strangers. She testified they offered to get her home. One of the bystanders can be seen speaking to Majors, who gestures for Jabari to get back into the car. He eventually leaves without her and goes to a hotel for the night. Jabari leaves with the bystanders. She says
I just think they are 2 very toxic individuals, to be honest with you. And I don't want to pull the race card here. But you know it never looks right when you see a black person manhandle a white person. Unfortunately, that's just how it is. And I hate having to have to say that. But that's unfortunately how some people see this, right? And I think he's right. His worst mistake was lifting her up and trying to shove her in that car. Because that in itself can be seen as abuse, as assault, right? I mean, she looked fine as, you know, when she was talking to those people in the street and all that, but who knows?
inside the car. You hit her in the face, twist her arm behind her back.
See, he hit her. That's just one thing you don't do, right? No matter who you are, what you are, when you raise your hand on a female, that's it.
Fracture her middle finger.
Yeah, that did not happen.
What happened?
She went to grab the phone. I held the phone. I pulled the phone back. She came on top of me, squeezed my face, slapped me. That's all I remember.
So she ends up with a 1-inch cut behind her ear.
Yeah, how did that happen?
Fractured finger.
Yeah.
How did those injuries come about?
I wish to God I knew.
No. No. You know. I'm not trying to be mean either. It's like, come on, you know, man. Don't or how about this? Maybe he got himself into this blind rage that he just totally blacked out. That could be it too.
That would give clarity. That would give me some type of peace about it.
But you're confident you didn't
I have no question.
What's interesting about the jury's verdict, it's so nuanced because they're saying you didn't intend to injure her.
Right.
But the result of your recklessness injured her.
Right.
Were you reckless?
Yeah.
I was reckless with her heart.
Nah,
Not
dude.
with her body.
Not with her body.
Come on, you were like trying to shove her in the
Never
car.
hit a woman. My hands have never struck a woman, ever. When the actual testimony came, the driver said, she did everything, meaning Grace. He did nothing, referring to myself.
Majors claims Jabari attacked him, ripping his coat, scratching
How
his face
nuts
and arm.
that they have all
These
this
are photos,
footage.
he says, are of his injuries, but were deemed inadmissible in court.
My injuries were...
Wait, why were they inadmissible? It's still something. I don't understand that.
I had a scratch on my hand, you know, from clawing for the phone. and I had a gash on my, at the time I had a beard. Under my beard I had essentially a fingernail scratch on my, I guess my cheek from pressure, you know.
You chose not to take the witness stand. Why?
Yes, ma'am. The driver.
You felt that was compelling enough. He had said enough.
Well, not just the driver, you know. She was doing everything, he was doing nothing. Well, that's what I was going to say. Mr. Majors, did you see any injuries on her? No, I didn't. Clinical experts, the detective I spoke to, all who testified before I did. But after all of that, what was I going to add?
Yeah, but if he had a chance to say it, at least from himself, I'm sure that's going to mean something, right? I mean, it's so tough when it comes to these cases because it is a lot of he said, she said kind of thing, right? But you need to show the jury at least how confident you are in your own innocence. The fact that he just let other people talk for him in hopes that at least that's like an outside party hopefully telling the truth. I mean, that's a nice sentiment, but I think if he spoke for himself, that could have gone a long way, for sure. I think that was a misstep. I don't know who his lawyer was or, you know, who was representing him, but I think that was a major misstep.
During the trial, an audio recording was presented in court by the prosecution of Jonathan Majors and Grace Jabari during an argument.
How dare you come home drunk and disturb the peace of our house? Coretta Scott King. You know who that is? That's Martin Luther King's wife. Michelle Obama. Barack Obama's wife. My temper, my shit, my trauma, blah, all that said, right? And I'm not saying I'm a great man. A great man. I am doing great things, not just for me, but for my culture and for the world. That is actually the position I'm in. The woman that supports me, that I support, that needs to be a great woman.
There are some.
Wow. This guy is on this high horse, man. Wow. I need to remember that. If I ever date someone and we get into an argument, that's it. I'll be like, you know, Michelle Obama, Coretta King, I need a woman that supports me like they supported their man. Wow, that sounds like something you would have heard in a movie or like a TV show. I feel like he's on all the time. I feel like now he's just always acting. Because that is a speech, man. Yo. And he's trying to put her on this level. And basically saying, like, you need to be like these women. Because I see myself like a Martin Luther King, like a Barack Obama. I am doing these great things for my culture and for my family. Dude, you're an actor. I hate to say it. You're a good actor. I like the stuff that you're in. You know, you provide entertainment and you provide representation for your culture. Yes, 1000%. But you're not trying to barter peace treaties, cure cancer. You're an actor, dude. Man, what a speech.
Who question, especially in the black community, as you're probably well aware, that that people were saying, well, why was he telling this woman to be like Coretta Scott King and Michelle Obama? Give us like the context of
Oh,
the
here we go.
conversation.
Let's hear it.
It was me trying to give an analogy of what it is I'm aspiring to be. You know, these great men, Martin, President Obama, and trying to give a reference point to that. I was attempting, and I did a terrible job at it, apparently. I was attempting to motivate, to enlighten, to give perspective as into what it is I was hoping to get out of the relationship. I think that's fair.
In her,
I don't know. I honestly do feel like he thinks he's that high up there. I think he does see himself as, well, he did. I don't know about now, but this dude. Wow.
closing argument, your attorney said that your greatest fear of being a black man in America calling 911 came true, suggesting that race was a part of this. Do you feel that race is a part of this?
I mean, yeah, of course it is.
Yeah, I will agree with him on this. You can't help but think that. Should you always pull that card? No, you should not. You shouldn't have to. But I can't blame him for thinking that way. But yeah. Oh, what's up, Green Peel? Wow, they really cast to type for Kang. The dude is a raging dude. I could not believe he said that. I could not believe that he gave that speech. And I love his excuse that, you know, I was trying to put a comparison and all that. No, you weren't. That sounded so authentic. Like he really feels that way. And he feels that his woman needs to be like these other women. Because he's out there doing great things. He is Kang. At the end of the day. He's Kang, he's Doctor Doom, he's all of them guys. They all say the same thing. I'm out here doing great things. And all of you are against me. Green Peel, I appreciate the sub. Thank you so much. Oh, man. I'm so happy I'm watching this because I had no idea. Oh man, that's amazing.
You know, like, without question.
But yeah, to go back to the whole race thing, I mean, honestly, look, you do have to put that into consideration at some point. You shouldn't always have to pull that card. I wish you wouldn't have to. But in a situation like this, you do have to kind of look at it in a certain way. Because unfortunately, we are not at that point yet where we can see an interracial couple, and if something goes wrong, that doesn't come into play. Unfortunately, I mean, it happens all the time. I mean, I'm mixed, you know, ethnicity and all that. So when I get into like stuff with other people, of course that's going to come up. You know, it is unfortunate, but I don't think this in particular is the reason there. I really do think at the end of the day, you have two people who I just think were very toxic with each other. Kind of like the whole Johnny Depp, Amber Heard situation. And, you know, unfortunately, he got the worst of it.
I mean, that quote unquote guilty verdict, you know, well, guilty verdict, no quote unquote, you know, like.
But he's also freaking a raging narcissist.
You think a white man facing the same allegations would have been arrested, charged, convicted?
Yeah.
I'll take it further. If you watch those videos and you reverse that, and you saw a black man chasing a young white girl down the street, screaming and crying, that man is going to be shot and killed in the streets of New York City.
Wait. Hold on. I need to rewind that. Wait a minute.
I'll take it further. If you watch those videos and you reverse that, and you saw a black man chasing a young white girl down the street, screaming and crying, that man is going to be shot and killed in the streets of New York City. That black man will feel that.
Manhattan District.
I don't think that's a prop. But she wasn't really chasing him like that. I don't know, man. I think that's a little bit too extreme. I don't know. At the same time, too, I can't say that I feel comfortable to be in a position to make a comment about that. Just as an outside observer, I don't know if that's necessarily true. Maybe. New York City cops are a little bit more understandable. Well, for the most part. I don't know. But
Attorney Alvin Bragg's office responded saying in part that they do their speaking in court. Jabari's attorney responded to this interview saying it is not at all surprising that Mr. Majors continues to take no accountability for his actions. His denigration of our jury system is not dissimilar from the above-the-law attitude that he has maintained throughout this legal process. The timing of these new statements demonstrates a clear lack of remorse for the actions for which he was found guilty and should make the sentencing decisions fairly easy for the court. Mr. Jabari will continue to speak the truth and seek justice in the appropriate forums in a continued effort to respect our legal process.
Grace, as you know, was arrested and charged for assault, but will not face prosecution.
Right.
You have thoughts on that?
so she was charged for the same stuff too, or at least for some of it also. That's interesting. I didn't know that.
That's hurtful. That's really hurtful. And why is it hurtful? Because, again, I know what happened. Movies don't matter. Work don't matter. Yale education doesn't matter. In that moment, what I felt was, oh, I'm nothing.
Throughout the trial, Major's girlfriend, actress Megan Good, was right by his side. She was also present for our conversation.
You've mentioned Megan a few times.
Yeah.
We've seen her right by your side, going in and out of court throughout the whole trial.
Yeah.
How would you describe your relationship?
I'm gonna make a joke right now, and this is really just a joke, but I love how he now has a black girlfriend. Because maybe deep down he's like them white girls are crazy.
It's a miracle. She's an angel. She's held me down like a Coretta, you know. I'm so blessed.
Dude, why are you bringing that up again? Wow.
To have her, you know, the relationship is still
Like a
fresh,
Coretta.
but, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I think I found her. Yeah.
The one.
I hope she just stick with me.
Major's career as a rising Hollywood actor is now in limbo. Future appearances playing Kang the Conqueror in the Marvel Cinematic Universe have been scrapped.
You hear the verdict
Yeah.
the same day Marvel drops you.
Same day. Within a freaking hour after the verdict was dropped, they dropped him. Like within the hour.
Your reaction?
Same hour. Same half hour, I think. It's like the world
See?
stopped. You know, it's like you work so hard for things, and then, it's done, And in that same breath, I thought, man, that was cool.
How so?
I was a supervillain,
In on screen and in real life. I got to give 2 great speeches.
And I got to play multiple characters, with a group of people that really cared nothing about anything else except making really cool movies and giving their actors whatever they need to tell those stories. And I'm so proud of it.
You think you'll ever work in Hollywood again?
Yeah, I do.
Not anytime soon.
But it's God's plan and God's timing.
For those who say, look, he's convicted at this point, what would you say? I mean, do you deserve a second chance?
Well, I think I do. I think I do. I hope other people think that.
Majors is set to be sentenced next month, but says he and his legal team plan to appeal.
Wow. Look, I'll say this. Will he work in Hollywood again? Yes. Anytime soon? No. With what he was accused of and what he was convicted of, current Hollywood today, it's very hard to let that go right now. Now, should he work in Hollywood again? I mean, you still got Mel Gibson directing stuff, right? It took him a minute, but he's directing stuff. He's acting and stuff. He was in that new Continental show on Peacock as the main bad guy there. So anything's possible. Given time, Hollywood will forget. But when that will happen, I don't know. I think at the end of the day, he messed up. He messed up. Whether or not he was truly at fault or what have you, the minute anything crazy was about to happen, that's when he should have dead it immediately. Immediately, before it got too far. Because nowadays, you don't mess around with any of that stuff, especially with the level you are at in Hollywood. The dude was a rising star. They're right about that. He was the talk of the town. Not just because of the Marvel stuff, but he was attached to so many projects. The Creed franchise. He had a lot of like these other separate movies that he was working on and he was in. And personally, I always thought he was a great actor, a great new actor, but he messed up, man. You just, you got to control your crazy. And I think he does have a little crazy in him. That's it. There's a lot of people who work in the business that have crazy in them. But they have to find ways to control it, at least to a certain point. So, I don't know. Do I feel bad for him? Kinda do. Yeah. To be an up-and-coming star like that and to just have it all thrown away because of something like that, it's unfortunate. But, it is what it is. So, wow. But that speech got me. You got to be like Coretta King, Michelle Obama, because I'm out there doing big things and I need a woman to support me. I gotta remember that because I would love to use that line one day. That is amazing. All right. Last thing I'm going to be reacting to right now as we close this show out for this morning. Again, thank you so much for tuning in, joining. Appreciate if you're watching this on a replay. If you are, feel free to leave a like and a comment. I'll probably be clipping these clips, these segments out. So if you're not interested in watching the full stream, then obviously you could just watch the clip outs and all that. But let's watch this Jo Koy monologue from the Golden Globes, and let's just see how bad this was. Because again, I've never seen it. I've only heard about it. Of course, obviously I've heard about the Taylor Swift joke, which maybe within the context of the entire monologue, I can kind of understand it a little bit more, whether it's appropriate or not. But let's check this out because I'm very, very curious to see what this is all about. Oh, but you know what? Honestly, wait, before I do that. So, my thoughts on Jo Koy. I am not a major fan of Jo Koy. Not because I don't think he's funny. It's just, I feel like he's funny when he is doing comedy for a certain group of people. And who is that group of people? The Filipinos. Because he is Filipino, I'm part Filipino. I honestly would not have known anything about him if it wasn't for my family. Why? Because every moment they can, they always thought they needed to share a clip of his, a skit that he did, a TikTok or whatever. So I can't get away from it. I'll watch it. I'll be respectful and be like, okay, that's kind of funny. I can relate. You know, oh, he's calling things out that I grew up with seeing and all that stuff. He does this thing about Filipino moms, right? So I thought, okay, it's cute for what it is, and I can laugh at certain things. But for the most part, me personally, I never found his comedy humorous to me. But he has a following. And the one thing is, when you come from a group like the Filipino group, you will get support no matter what. They will come out in droves and support you. I know because, again, I know my own family. If you happen to be Filipino or Filipina and you happen to be a contestant on American Idol, forget it. I won't hear the end of it for like up until that person gets voted off or whatever. I will still see clips on Facebook, Instagram, all that stuff. The Filipino people know how to support their own, 1000%. So that's my extent of knowledge when it comes to Jo Koy. Now, when I heard that he was announced to host the Golden Globes, I was like, wow, is he really that popular to get a gig like that? Like, I know he performs like, you know, in arenas and big stages. He has Netflix specials, but then again, a lot of people do. I just never thought that he was at that level of quote unquote recognition and stardom that he could host a gig like that. I just never saw him at that level, you know, a level like a Ricky Gervais or whatever. Because again, Ricky Gervais hosted a Golden Globes once. So I'm like, all right, good for him, you know? So I was shocked. And then when I heard what happened, I was like, oh, okay. Well, then maybe he's not ready for prime time yet, you know, which is unfortunate. So let's check this monologue out. I'm curious how many people in that room at this moment knew who he was. Because it was announced that he was hosting what? A week before? Right? That's another bad sign too. The fact that they couldn't get a host up until that point. What what were they doing? Like, what was the issue there? So I feel like they kind of threw him a bone, or maybe he was recommended, or whatever the case is. So that in itself is weird. But I guarantee you, I would say 60% of the people there did. No, you didn't. No one ever stays up to watch the Golden Globes. That's bullshit. That's all bullshit. Oscars, yes. Golden Globes, he was able to bring in some of his acting. But if you're not familiar with Filipino people and his mom persona, then that was funny. Oh, you know what? Warning, we've detected video in your streams belonging to someone else. Oh, no. Okay, I can't watch this. All right. You know what? Never mind. I don't want to get demonetized. So I am going to stop this right now. Unfortunately. Sorry, y'all. Live streaming. It's still something. So I'm going to stop that. Apologies to YouTube. What I'm going to do is I'm going to watch this offline, and then maybe in the next stream I'll give my comments on it and I'll react to it. But from what I saw so far, I mean, it wasn't terrible yet. You know, it wasn't that bad from what I saw so far. But I'm sure it's probably going to go off the rails quickly after that, especially the whole joke about him not seeing all that stuff. But I'll be curious to see how the rest of this goes, and I'm definitely going to share my thoughts and comments with all of you once I do. But that's going to be it for me for this morning. Again, for those of you who have joined in and tuned in, even just briefly, thank you so much for doing so. If you happen to be watching this on a replay, then I appreciate if you leave a comment, leave a like. That would be great. Would really, really totally appreciate that. And like I said, this is an experiment. I hope to be doing more of these. And I'll figure out the frequency as far as, how many times a week I'll be doing this. But I do see this as something that I would love to do more often and all that. So I would love to hear from you if you enjoyed this or what you would like to see me talk about during these morning shows. Obviously, the headlines is like a major thing. Maybe reviews of something that I just watched. I'm thinking of doing like a segment where I binge watch a series every week, and then I give my thoughts and review on that stuff. So let me know your thoughts and comments and what you would like for me to include in future iterations of this stream. So with that being said, thank you so much again for tuning in. I totally appreciate it. Until next time, stay cool, stay classy, stay safe. I will catch you all in the next one. All right. Bye, y'all.